emphasized how this was something that was hugely important in times of struggle, times of crisis, times of uncertainty. It was even more sought after. So it wasn't things get tough and, oh, let's get tough, let's be tough and shove it all down. What do you need, sweetheart? What do you need? Just tell me. All of these, they don't guarantee that by taking action. Hey everybody, welcome into Folklore and Flourish. You're here with Jane and Mark. Today is March 5th, and you are here at Blue Box 29. Today is March 5th, the Omen. Our theme is that signs reveal paths. So we're in the month of trial and destiny and the tested hero. So today we're in week 1 with the Omen. These are all the signs that the heroes see throughout their journey. But our 4 stories are going to come from Roman, Lakota, Chinese, and Celtic folklore today. So we're going to take a look at those 4 stories, and we will see you right after this. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1. The Ides of March. In the final months of 44 BCE, Rome was uneasy. Julius Caesar, victor of civil war and newly declared dictator, Perpetuo, held unprecedented authority. The republic's old balance between senate and magistrates had shifted toward singular rule. Honors accumulated around him. Statues were raised. Rumors circulated that kingship, a title Romans had expelled centuries earlier, might return under another name. But before blades were drawn in the theater of Pompeii, signs appeared. Roman religion was not separate from statecraft. Augurs observed the flight of birds. Haruspices examined the entrails of sacrificed animals for irregularities. Unusual natural phenomena were interpreted as prodigies. Political decisions were often delayed if omens proved unfavorable. In February of 44 BCE, during the festivals of Lupercalia, a soothsayer reportedly approached Caesar in a public procession and delivered a warning: beware the Ides of March. The Ides referred to the midpoint of the month, March 15th. Caesar did not dismiss religion outright. He participated in sacrifice and ritual as required by custom, yet the warning did not alter his course. Additional signs followed. According to ancient sources such as Suetonius and Plutarch, unusual occurrences multiplied. A sacrificial animal was found lacking a heart, an anomaly interpreted by some as a sign of danger. Storms and strange lights were reported in the sky. Statues were said to sweat. These accounts blend historical record and later embellishment, but within Roman consciousness, such details mattered. More personal was the dream of Calpurnia, Caesar's wife. On the night before the Ides, she dreamed that Caesar's statue ran with blood and that the Romans washed their hands in it. She urged him not to attend the Senate meeting scheduled for the following morning. Dreams in Roman culture were not automatically authoritative, but they were not ignored casually. Combined with earlier warnings, her plea added weight. On the morning of March 15th, Caesar hesitated. This is the threshold. He considered remaining home. He sent word that he was unwell. Some accounts say that he even resolved not to attend the Senate session. But Decimus Brutus, one of the conspirators, persuaded him that absence would appear weak and invite mockery. To cancel on the basis of a dream would damage dignity. The soothsayer, encountering Caesar again that morning, was reportedly addressed by him with irony. "The Ides of March have come." The soothsayer replied, "Aye, Caesar, but not gone." Caesar proceeded. The theater of Pompeii was chosen as the meeting site because the Senate house was under renovation. Within that complex, the statue of Pompey the Great, Caesar's former rival in civil war, stood. When the conspirators approached him under the pretext of presenting a petition, the assault began. Blades flashed. Caesar was stabbed multiple times. Ancient sources record that he attempted to defend himself before recognizing familiar faces among his attackers. He fell at the base of Pompey's statue. The omen had not forced his fate. It had revealed tension. Roman culture treated omens as signs of divine displeasure or warning. They did not negate human agency. Leaders could not choose to heed or disregard them. Sometimes rituals were performed to avert danger. Sometimes warnings were ignored. The Ides of March became emblem for foreseen catastrophe. Yet it is important to note, the signs did not name assassins. They did not describe precise mechanism. They marked atmosphere. They signaled instability. They alerted those attentive to divine human imbalance. Caesar's hesitation that morning reveals something essential to March's arc. Even powerful figures waver when confronted with warning. He was not unaware of risk. He had been warned repeatedly of plots. He had enemies in the Senate. He had accumulated authority rapidly. Suspicion surrounded him. But ambition, confidence, and political calculation outweighed caution. The omen did not seize his hand and redirect it home. It offered track. He stepped forward. In Roman thought, prodigies required interpretation. The Senate could order expiatory rituals. Priests could advise delay, but destiny and decision interlocked. The Ides of March illustrate that signs may cluster before turning points. The air grows charged, warnings accumulate, dreams disturb sleep. Voices speak in public procession. Whether those signs alter outcome depends on response. Caesar chose presence over precaution. The omen became epitaph. Story 2. Eagle Visions on the Plains. On the northern plains of what is now the United States, among the Lakota people, signs were not extracted from entrails or written in state archives. They were encountered in sky and dream. The eagle was not merely a bird. It was a messenger. Among the Lakota, the eagle, Wanbli, carried sacred significance. Its feathers were used in ceremony. Its flight marked spiritual proximity. It was understood to move between worlds, high above human boundary, yet attentive to what stirred below. In traditional Lakota society, especially prior to reservation confinement in the 19th century, visions played a central role in shaping identity. Young men preparing for adulthood, for warriorhood, or for spiritual responsibility undertook a ritual known as Hanble Cheya, often translated as crying for a vision. The ritual was not casual. It involved fasting, isolation, and prayer. An individual would go alone to a hilltop or sacred place, without food or water for several days. The purpose was not speculative. It was receptivity. The participant sought communication from Wakan Tanka, the great mystery, or from spiritual powers manifested in animal or elemental form. Visions were not guaranteed. They were given. An eagle appearing during or after such a vigil was often interpreted as powerful affirmation. Its flight pattern, its cry, even the direction of its movement could carry meaning. But interpretation did not occur in isolation. Upon returning to camp, the individual would recount the experience to a holy person or elder skilled in discernment. The omen did not stand alone. It required community interpretation. In Lakota understanding, the world was alive with presence. Thunder beings, animals, rivers, sky, each carried agency. Signs were not detached from human life. They were woven into it. For a warrior preparing for battle, eagle imagery held particular weight. To see an eagle before conflict could be taken as protection, as encouragement, or as a call to courage. Feathers earned in battle symbolized honor and spiritual endorsement, yet omens were not always triumphal. They could also warn. A dream of falling, of broken wings, of storm gathering could indicate imbalance or necessary ritual before action. A leader who ignored such signs risked not only personal harm, but communal consequence. In the 19th century, as U.S. military pressure increased and buffalo herds diminished, Lakota leaders faced decisions under extreme strain. Vision and sign remained integral even amid colonial disruption. Spiritual guidance was not abandoned because circumstances were dire. It was sought more urgently. A threshold in Lakota Omen tradition lies in attentiveness. A warrior might feel fear before battle. He might doubt his readiness. The vision quest was not designed to eliminate fear, but to contextualize it. If an eagle appeared during the fast, descending low or circling overhead, it was interpreted as affirmation that one's path aligned with spiritual order. But if no visions came, or if troubling imagery dominated, hesitation could be instruction rather than weakness. The omen here is not theatrical catastrophe. It is subtle alignment. An eagle does not speak in human language. It flies, it cries, it descends or ascends. Meaning is discerned through cultural pattern. In Lakota cosmology, courage is not reckless advance. It is movement in harmony with spiritual guidance. The warrior who charges without regard for sign risks acting outside balance. The omen becomes track. Not destiny imposed, but path illuminated. On the plains in early spring, wind moves through grass not yet fully green. Sky remains vast and cold. An eagle riding thermals is visible from great distance. Its shadow crosses earth briefly, then passes. The question is whether it is seen. The Lakota tradition teaches that signs do not belong to the inattentive. They are granted to those who seek, fast, wait, and listen. An omen may confirm readiness. It may delay action. It may reveal that fear is natural but not final. The warrior returns from the hilltop not necessarily fearless, but oriented. The eagle's flight leaves no physical mark on the ground. Yet for the one who saw it, the path is clear. Story 3. Comets in the Mandate of Heaven. In ancient China, the sky was not distant decoration. It was political text. From the Zhou dynasty onward, the legitimacy of rulers rested upon the mandate of heaven. Tianming, heaven, Tian, was not a personal deity in the Western sense, but an ordering principle that granted authority to virtuous rule and withdrew it from corruption. Natural disasters, eclipses, floods, and celestial anomalies were read as commentary on governance. Among the most charged of these signs were comets. In early Chinese records, comets were referred to as huixing, broom stars. Their long tails were seen as sweeping instruments across the sky. Unlike fixed stars, which followed predictable patterns, comets appeared unexpectedly, moving against the stable background of constellations. They were disruption made visible. Astronomers in imperial courts were not hobbyists. They were state officials tasked with recording celestial events in meticulous detail. The Shiji, compiled by Sima Qian in the 1st century BCE, and other historical chronicles preserve extensive accounts of unusual astronomical phenomena. When a comet appeared, it was documented with precision: direction of travel, duration, color, proximity to constellations associated with specific regions of the empire. Interpretation followed. A comet might signal rebellion in a particular province. It might foretell the fall of a minister. It might indicate moral decay within the court. The emperor, regarded as son of heaven, was expected to respond with humility, fasting, issuing edicts of reform, reducing taxes, releasing prisoners. The omen did not dictate exact event. It dictated imbalance. In 240 BCE, a notable comet appeared during the Warring States period. Later tradition associated such appearances with dynastic tradition. In 134 BCE, during the Han Dynasty, a comet was recorded and interpreted as a warning to the throne. Court officials urged self-examination. Perhaps the most famous celestial omen in global memory is the comet, later known as Halley's Comet. Recorded in Chinese annals as early as 240 BCE and again in 12 BCE. Each appearance was noted as a potential sign of change. Unlike Roman augury, which focused on individual decision moments, Chinese celestial interpretation was systematic. The emperor bore responsibility not merely for personal fate, but for harmony between heaven and earth. If corruption spread, heaven signaled displeasure through anomaly. The threshold in this tradition is response. A ruler could ignore the comet, but doing so risked reinforcing the perception that he had lost heaven's favor. The mandate of heaven was not eternal. Dynasties rose and fell based on moral and political conduct. Historical narrative framed rebellion as justified when heaven's mandate had shifted. Thus, a comet streaking across the night sky was not spectacle alone, it was warning. The appearance of a broom star suggested that something required sweeping: corruption, negligence, imbalance. The omen did not specify which minister would betray or which province would revolt. It marked atmosphere. It sharpened awareness. It invited correction before collapse. Chinese cosmology emphasized harmony among heaven, earth, and humanity. When that triad fell out of balance, signs emerged. In early spring, the sky remains clear and cold. A comet visible before dawn would command attention, cutting across a constellation fixed for generations. Farmers might whisper, officials would write reports, the emperor would receive counsel. Fear might rise. Was this the sign of dynastic end, or a call to reform before decay hardened? The tested hero archetype here is imperial. To rule was to carry not only administrative burden, but cosmic accountability. The sky itself commented on governance. Leaders were expected to wobble, to recognize that authority was conditional. Some emperors responded with decrees of repentance. Others dismissed warnings. History recorded outcomes accordingly. The comet leaves no permanent mark on Earth. It burns and passes. But in the archive of the court, its trajectory remains inscribed. Fate leaves tracks in the sky. The question is whether those below read them. Story 4, Ravens on the Field of War. On the island of Ireland, long before Christian monastic scribes set ink to vellum, stories of battle and sobriety traveled by voice. Among these stories, the raven was never accidental. In early Irish literature preserved in texts such as the Tan Bo Cuailnea, battlefields were not merely human arenas. They were spaces where divine presence manifested. The Morrigan, a complex war goddess associated with fate, sobriety, and death, was frequently linked to the form of the raven or crow. To see a raven before battle was not a neutral occurrence. It was omen. The Morrigan did not always appear as majestic deity. Often she manifested in subtle ways, perched upon a branch, hovering over combat, washing bloody garments at the fort before conflict began. Her presence signaled that death would follow. One of the most significant narratives involving the Morrigan centers on the hero, Cuchulainn, in the Ulster cycle. He stands nearly alone defending Ulster against invading forces before certain confrontations. Morrigan appears to him, sometimes offering assistance, sometimes challenging him, sometimes testing his recognition. When he refuses her advances in one episode, she later interferes in battle in animal forms, attempting to hinder him. After he wounds her in these manifestations, she later appears disguised as an old woman milking a cow, and he unknowingly blesses her, healing her injuries. The encounter reveals not only tension, but interdependence between hero and omen. Most striking is the account of Cuchulainn's death. Mortally wounded, he binds himself upright to a standing stone so that he will not fall. Even in death, he chooses posture of defiance. His enemies hesitate to approach him until a raven settles upon his shoulder. The raven confirms what warriors feared to assume. He has fallen. The Morrigan's presence as a raven marks transition from life to legend. In early Irish cosmology, sobriety and fate intertwined. The land itself responded to rightful or wrongful rule. War was not only political conflict, but ritual contestation of order. The raven, feeding on carrion, naturally appeared on battlefields. But in narrative, it became charged symbol, witness, harbinger, and confirmer of destiny. The omen here does not prevent battle, it frames it. A warrior seeing ravens gather before combat would understand that blood would follow. The question was not whether death existed, but whether one would meet it aligned with honor. Unlike Roman omens that sometimes invite avoidance, Celtic battle omens reinforced inevitability. They reminded heroes that fame and death were intertwined. To shrink from the field because of ravens would undermine identity. To step forward was to accept fate's proximity. Spring on Irish fields brings cold wind and shifting light. Mist clings low. A raven's cry cuts sharply through air. Its black form against pale sky is unmistakable. For the warrior, such sight is not random bird movement. It is reminder. The Morrigan does not dictate which blade will strike. She signals that the threshold between life and death is thin. The tested hero in this transition does not avoid omen. He stands with it. Cuchulainn's binding of himself to the stone is ultimate response to sign. He refuses to collapse unseen. He remains upright even as life leaves him, allowing the raven to bear witness. The omen becomes seal. Irish epic literature, shaped orally and later written down in medieval manuscripts, preserved these motifs not as superstition, but as worldview. The battlefield was permeable to divine presence. Ravens were not decorative, they were narrative confirmation of fate unfolding. To see the raven is to understand that destiny is near. The hero's task is not to flee the sky's shadow, it is to meet it standing. Hey everybody, welcome back in. Hope you enjoyed those 4 stories. Today is March 5th, the Omen, and today's theme was that signs reveal paths. Our lesson is that fate leaves tracks. Our daily thread for the day is that air changes before events do. In Rome, warnings gathered before the blades were drawn. On the plains, the eagle's flight marked alignment or caution. In China, a comet traced imbalance across the sky. In Ireland, ravens confirmed the battle would not pass quietly. What signs in your life are you dismissing because they are inconvenient? Fate leaves tracks long before the moment arrives. So right away, the first thing I really liked is a lot of signs with birds in them. Yeah. Lots of signs with birds in them. Story 1, right away, Caesar. We all know how that ended, but he had a number of people come up to him. A number of different signs. Caution, caution. But he had trust. He had trust in the person that asked him to come. Right. And whether it was trust or just believing in and that could be the same thing, but believing in his counsel or his advice. But he did hesitate and he did acknowledge, and because he allowed someone else to push him, ultimately led to his death. But again, if not him, someone else probably would have asked him to go. He was close. But that's what happened when he doubted the signs, doubted the omens. Right. When he ignored the continuous warning signs and things, he just...
And I'm sure we all have, I know I've probably ignored who knows how many signs. And then the universe or God is like, okay, well, I was trying to help you out, but since you don't want to do that, take the long road. You know what I mean? So definitely that's where the free will part comes in to being here. We get to choose if we want to make our life harder or easier by following those signs. His sign was you're either going to be dead or who knows what else could have happened in what other alternate universe. I mean, it might be fun to write a book about it, that if Caesar didn't die, that'd be fun. But
well, that's like, I think there's a book out there that explores where Germany did win the Second War.
There's a TV show on Amazon. It's called The Man in the High Castle. I started watching it. Yeah, and I started watching it, and it started out really slow. I think now where I'm at mentally, I could watch it and enjoy it. When I watched it before, I was definitely not in the same mental state, and it was just weird. But so the east side of the United States is ran by Germany, and it is Germany. The west coast,
Russia,
China.
Oh, China.
Yeah, China took over for whatever reason. And then the middle is like nobody wants to go there. Like it's the in-between zone of Germany and China. And I don't know why it's
Is it China or Japan?
Pretty sure it's China.
Okay.
But I mean, it's been years since and I'd heard so many people just talk about how great that show was. And then the person that wrote it did some other stuff. And I'm like, interesting. But allegedly that show, they got it because that is an actual, like,
that is a
they're
reality.
Like, no, that really happened, like in a different reality, because there are so many. It would be interesting to see how it's played out. I would.
Some argue that they did win.
Yeah.
Not Germany itself, but the Nazi regime did win.
Yeah.
And we see it in a lot of our technology advancements today and how the government runs in a lot of different areas.
Well, look at all those scientists, all it takes is a few years and a couple people to forget and a couple people that are smart to work their way through stuff, and they could still have their same ideology,
ideology,
and just wait their time and then start pushing stuff in. It's truly not that hard as we like to make it think it is. we are so ignorant as humans, not Americans, as humans, into what actually and how things can actually happen so quickly. We wouldn't even know it for sure. I think.
How things just happen in general, and we may not even know it.
Right.
Yeah. The important note for the one with Caesar is that signs rarely dictate, they indicate. Awareness sharpens before crisis. Spring emergence requires discernment about whether a warning is fear to overcome or wisdom to heed. So, am I seeing this sign just because I'm being paranoid? But that's when we really look at it was more than one thing.
Right. And that's the part where, like, I know I personally am like, nah, because just like that, you just got to be paranoid, Or I personally just didn't know what signs were at the time, truly to be able to see them. But something as blatant as what he was getting, it's kind of shocking that he was for someone that believed in that type of stuff, and that stuff was more known back then. It was more followed than it is now. To get all those signs and to still go.
It's because he trusted that person.
And man, how gut wrenching would it be? He'd be like, it's March 15th or whatever he said.
Yeah, the Ides of March is the 15th.
Yeah. And then she's like, yeah, but it's not over.
You're right.
Like, do you know how bad me, like, hearing that in the story, during the story, I was like, ugh. Like, I don't know if you looked at me when I did it or when I was listening, but I was like, ugh. Because it's not over. I'd be like, you're right. I gotta go poop.
Well, what did they say? He stopped fighting. He tried to resist it first until he saw the familiar faces doing it.
Yeah, and then he's like,
that part was hard to hear. And it's, you see all that in the play and stuff, Julius Caesar. But just imagine seeing someone like fighting, and seeing the one person or just a few that they're like, what am I even fighting for?
Right.
These are close faces. These are personal. This isn't someone in no man's land who has a grudge against me or someone I've gone to war against. These are people, my people, and that part.
Why did they cross him? I don't remember.
Because remember, they thought that he was going to be he was the new dictator, but they got rid of a lot of that old. All right, so the second one, the eagle visions on the plains. We've seen several stories talking about the different signs and journeys that they go on. In this one, I like how it said it isn't guaranteed, they're given.
Yeah.
So it may not be during the time that you look for it, might be after. But I really liked how this time when we heard it, it emphasized how this was something that was hugely important in times of struggle, times of crisis, times of uncertainty. It was even more sought after. So it wasn't things get tough and, let's get tough, let's be tough and shove it all down. That's the time when we need to be asking for help and guidance and signs because, there aren't signs. There are signs everywhere, constantly. Like thinking about the weather patterns, right? How sailors can tell on a clear day that there's a storm coming.
Right.
And you're like, this is like a beautiful day. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, nope, we need to get boats in. Everyone needs to be inside because it's gonna be rough later. The uniqueness of the eagle. How I said there were several birds. We see the eagle, we see the raven, and then there's birds in Greek, the Greek one. And then arguably the comet is just another thing that flies through the sky. So it's just a burning bird, I guess. But this one being the eagle and how if it's circling you, how we usually see certain types of birds circling it's death.
Yeah.
No, but this is something that's acknowledging your balance, your harmony, your alignment. And I just feel so empowered when I just think of that. Like imagine standing there and an eagle does start circling you like that.
How dope would it be you walk outside tomorrow and that red-tailed hawk starts
Okay, so that's what I thought with all these stories. Because that's exactly how I felt like when I needed it. And it wasn't just one occasion, it was like 4 or 5 where that red hawk has been there.
Yeah. And then now all today's stories were all about birds. pretty much, right? Every single one of them.
Well, yeah, arguably they're all
Right.
omens too specifically.
Yeah.
So we have the Lakota and then we have the Celtic one that are specific
Right.
birds.
Birds, and then the other one is something in the air.
Mhm.
I guess to kind of signify.
Yeah, I mean it is.
Yeah.
So this one though, the eagles, they aren't always triumphant. They can also warn.
Right.
So it's not always, oh, I see an eagle and I'm in balance and everything's good. No, they could also be major things like falling, the broken wings. They all have significance. So it's not just the bird itself, but it's everything about
what
it.
is happening during that sighting. You know, where are you? When is it?
And
I'm sure, like, what does the weather feel like?
And that's what I want to kind of transition into the third one, because the third one was like that. How when they recorded the comet, it was like every detail
Yeah.
about it. So the distance it traveled, the length of time, the brightness, you know, the size. Something that it made me really wish that I would have been taught in the K through 12 is astronomy.
Yeah.
And really understanding the constellations and how, like, wayfinders, how they found through the stars, and how people used to be able to travel long distances just tracking constellations.
Right.
And to be able to build pyramids that fit 3 stars, you know.
And those aren't the only pyramids that fit.
No.
There's other
I'm just saying
places
those main
on
3.
the Giza Plateau.
What the important note for that last one before we continue with the third one is that not every sign shouts. Some circle quietly overhead. Awareness requires preparation and humility. Spring emergence sharpens when we learn to see what has always been moving above us. So, always been moving above us. Now we go into the comet, that it isn't necessarily close enough that we can see its wings and feathers and stuff, but we can still see the light and everything. But how much detail was put into it. And it would be so cool to see that, like those records. I wonder if those are available for people to like research and look into. They must be. I would wonder.
Guess. I'm sure they do have it somewhere, because every, like, how their society was.
I mean, they would have it somewhere. I guess what I really
like,
want is
like, jump on
their
Google and look?
version.
Right.
Yeah, so the council, watch out. I really liked how they called them broom stars.
Broom stars. Yeah, because they made it sounds like a broom, something to sweep. I caught that visualization as soon as they said it.
I liked that it said sweeping it. Because sometimes we need to just clear the roster.
Yeah.
Really. That's the only thing we can do, because even if not everyone is involved with the corruption, like they said, hands on, when corruption settles, you just got to clear everything out.
Isn't that weird?
Like how you said, the water.
Yeah.
You know, when you have just a little bit left, but it's dirty, and then you pour clean water in. I mean, it's still going to be
still in there. Yeah.
And that's how this was. And sometimes that's just what you have to do. But then there are also signs of the comet. Is that what it is? You know, is that what the sign is? Some of them, we don't know what they are until later. And that's what the fourth one kind of went into as well, is that the ravens, you know, seeing them on the battlefield, you know, death would come. Death was coming, but that didn't necessarily mean my death.
Yeah.
As the warrior seeing it. So, and I like how this raven, the Morrigan, it is a she. You know, they reference it as a she, doesn't always appear as a majestic deity. Sometimes it's in subtle ways. So it's not always a big bird flying overhead. It could just be something watching you.
Right.
Something that seems so harmless. And I don't know, maybe is that why the conspiracy that birds aren't real and that they're cameras and spies, is that why people think that? Because we do naturally look to birds, or we don't ever question when a bird lands in front of us.
Right.
But I'll question when there's a stray dog or stray cat. I may chase off like rodents and stuff, but birds we don't really chase off.
Not really.
And they can land anywhere and we don't really think anything of it. But this one kind of says maybe we should think about it. Not in that conspiracy way, but if I've seen that same red-tailed hawk the same place or when I've asked for it, I mean, obviously there's a sign there, but sometimes it's not what I think it is. And other times I've told you that I knew what it was right away. In my mind, it was just like reassurance of something.
Yeah, because you could be thinking about something and all of a sudden you spot it. And that could be your answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because you asked, hey, if this is going on, I need signs at some point in your life. And you're like, whatever the sign is. And you might not remember ever asking for that type of sign. And then boom, it gave it to you.
And I remember one of the, I think it was like 3 times ago that I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like crying and begging for just something to help me make some decisions.
Yeah.
Something to help me clear my mind or come at peace. And it's not just seeing it. I've seen it on like 4 separate occasions where it will fly and soar by me or above my car. And it's sometimes I'll stop, and when it's soaring, it'll circle back towards my car.
Ooh.
And then other times it's just been perched, but I'll say something to him and he'll look at me. Come here then. Pause up. Good girl.
Well, it's just like that big old one we saw when we were going up to Elko, too.
Mm-hmm.
That bird was cool.
All of these, they don't guarantee that by taking action, though, it's going to mean that it's going to work out all right.
Right.
If I acknowledge things, it doesn't mean that it's going to work out all right. And by doing nothing, sometimes that is the right thing to do. Other times it is just testing us. Yeah, there are signs here because things are going to happen. But the real test is, are you willing to step into the fray anyways?
Right.
All 4 of these stories are kind of talking about that. But the last one, the important note is that some signs confirm what cannot be avoided. Awareness does not always change outcome, but it clarifies posture. Spring emergence calls us to stand upright even when the sky darkens overhead. So we talked about how sometimes we do things and it was the wrong choice. Sometimes we don't. It was the wrong choice, vice versa. This one's saying sometimes it doesn't matter because there are some things that we signed up to do or that we have the responsibility to do, and it can't be avoided. Yeah. And then we see like Sisyphus and stuff, and yeah, it can be avoided, but in human terms, it can be. This isn't what it means. Long term, if you have this contract to fulfill, it'll come. It can't be avoided forever.
Well, and that by you saying that just makes me think when you said that you made the wrong choice. I don't believe that. You made one of 2 choices or multiple, right? It doesn't, I think giving something the power of being wrong or right, I don't think that's within, we don't know. The wrong choice could have been the right choice to put us in the position for whatever's better next, just as long as we step out of the way. So I don't believe it's the wrong choice. I just believe it's the choice that maybe wasn't as easy. We took the harder path, maybe, not necessarily the wrong one, because we're still going to get these lessons that we need. That's the way I see it anyways.
Okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense too. But thinking of that, we're going to think about the question of what signs have I seen? So I've been seeing some signs, and then we'll just be paying more attention to those signs.
Yeah, I definitely want to start looking because, there's those moments where I'm like looking and wanting and needing it. And then there's other times where I need it, but just am not thinking about it. So it'd be nice to be more, what's the word that I'm looking for? Aware, yeah, of looking for them or seeing it for what it is.
And so that's actually part of what our application is today.
Oh, cool.
So we're actually going to look up to the sky and observe what we see without explanation. So as you're looking for the signs, you're not going to identify what the sign could be. You're just identifying, what the sign could mean. Just identifying what is around. What am I noticing? Because it is being aware.
Yeah.
I mean, we could pass the same bird every single day and not pay attention to it. So it really is just being aware of what keeps showing up in your life.
Right.
Or what keeps being shut down in your life too.
That part
is a huge thing. What are you being told? It's okay. And then what are you being told? okay, now I have to.
Right.
And so just thinking about that. And then with the thing I'm going to leave everyone with today is that awareness sharpens when signs are witnessed rather than dismissed. So seeing those giant birds when we're driving to like Elko or
that thing was
up towards
massive.
Idaho, you see a bunch of big birds going towards Jackpot. Is that what that is? And just making the time to notice them. Because whether we believe in omens or not, everyone knows when ravens and vultures, crows are circling. What does that mean?
Something's dead.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's an omen.
Yeah.
That's a sign. So we don't need to always be thinking this spiritual or tied to this faith and stuff. That's just science.
Yeah.
There's something dead. So there are going to be things that are signaling death right there. You hear cheering. What do you assume? Bunch of screaming, like, woo!
Yeah.
Good things are happening, right? There's a sporting event, whatever. But you can tell, when we're at sporting events, by the sound of whichever side of the crowd it is. We know who's winning, or if it was a crazy play, or if it's a tight situation. We don't actually have to see the scoreboard because we can just tell.
I have a great story with that.
Okay, let's hear it.
So when I first started working out there, watching the Vikings playoff game, it was probably one of the best playoff game plays that ever happened, and I didn't get to see it live. So I'm at my parents' watching the game. I'm on night shift, and it was when I was really new out there, right? So I'm watching the game, and I'm pushing it as far as I can to go to work, to where I can watch as much of the game with my parents and family as I can before I go to work. So then I get to work, I hurry in like as fast as I could. Like I spent as much time in my truck listening and then moving forward to getting inside, hustled up to where I could get inside and start getting information of what's going on the game. Because it was like around halftime. So people are watching it in their houses and doing their thing, and I'm kind of keeping track of what's going on, and I got buttons on and I'm listening to people talk about it and stuff. And then it was time to go feed. And at that time, we had to go into the hallway and pat all these guys down before they left in case they had weapons.
Oh, after you leave cafeteria and stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was from the unit. Oh. So going down to, and now that we're less, we have more security, which is, anyways. So we go out in the hall, we're patting these guys down, and out of nowhere, I hear screaming, yelling, but from both sides of the tiers, both units. So there's 2 tiers in each unit on both sides, 2 units, and I'm standing right in the middle. And I hear this eruption. And I was like, we were losing when I walked out. I said, we lost. This game is over. And then I walked out butthurt. And then I heard this crazy, ah! And I'm like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden, all these guys start coming out and they start telling me, I'm like, what happened? What happened? And they're like, oh, man, Diggs caught this pass out of nowhere, ran all the way down for a touchdown. The Vikings won. And I was like, what? And then I freak out. And I think it was me and one other person, and then just like 70 inmates. And I'm just like, woo, I bet you lost money. Oh, dude, I was being ignorant because I was just so elated. And it's so true what you say. Like, you can hear something, whether it's sad, happy, whatever, and you have a really good idea of what's going on.
We don't need all of the senses. Sometimes a sign or omen could be shown through several, sometimes through one. I mean, I just think about like seeing animals. Like when I was younger, I remember like coyotes coming up and coming kind of close to us, and they must have had rabies or something because I was really little and my dad was like freaked out because there's no way that coyote should be that close to us.
I've had one, and it was close.
Several of them, but there was several, and one of them was crazy. Injured. But taking that as a sign, of how huge it is for wild animals to trust humans. We weren't the closest house. Like there were other houses around us, so we were kind of like in the middle of them. Why did it go to our house?
Yeah.
right? My dad, we found an owl when I was younger with like a broken wing or something around the dirt, like curved dirt over by the house. And that's when the post used to be there. Do you remember? Long time ago, there used to be a post over there.
Are you talking about like where you go down the hill, your sister's over here? So around that thing?
Yeah.
A pole?
There used to be a pole, but I don't remember if it was down at the bottom. But there used to be another pole.
Like a light pole?
No, I don't remember what it was. Maybe. I don't know. But there was something, but there was like an injured owl there or something. And he just got out and grabbed it and like healed it. My dad would always come home with animals.
Dude, my dad would too, but it would tick my mom off because it was usually tarantulas or scorpions or just like...
Our dad would drop snakes on us, like little baby snakes, or he would be like, open your hand. But he'd say that when you're not paying attention, so you just open it and something's crawling.
Man, I should do that to my girls. That's a great idea. Thank you. That's a way to toughen them up. I love that.
So sometimes signs are hard to decipher and we may not know whether they were taken correctly. And then some are, I mean, they're pretty obvious.
Yeah.
This is what needs to be done.
Right.
Sometimes we're spoken to directly. Sometimes we really have to break down because it is personalized. Yeah. Sometimes it is that red-tailed hawk for me. And I'm like, oh, okay, that is something that I should pay attention to.
I was looking at pictures, and that was one of the last pictures that I saw. I didn't even know these were the stories on that pole. The picture that I took from the house of him on the pole when I first saw him.
Yeah, because he found us over here.
Yeah, I found that picture, but for whatever reason, I was looking at it just before you got home. And then here we are talking about birds.
Nice.
I love it.
Yes. Well, on that note, I think that we're good for today. Yeah. So thank you guys for coming in. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. Love you. Appreciate it. See you tomorrow.